Let's make JavaScript simpler. I'll show you how to read the challenge, design the logic, and code the solution, so you can work faster and think smarter.
Reverse parentheses. Given a string that contains properly nested parentheses, return the decoded version of the string using the following rules. Rule 1. All characters inside each pair of parentheses should be reversed. Rule 2. Parentheses should be removed from the final results. Rule 3. If parentheses are nested, the innermost pair should be reversed first, and then its result should be included in the reversal of the outer pair. And Rule 4. Assume all parentheses are evenly balanced and correctly nested. That last rule saves us a lot of time, so we don't have to start doing a lot of debugging over it. So let's take a look at our design. Okay, that is the flowchart done. So this looks pretty straightforward and pretty simple. Let me add the text box just so we know what our if it's pointing to. So as always, we have our start, we have our end. We're going to input the string for the function, so that as you can see here is S. We'll change the string later to make it clearer. Then we want to create a regex to check for parentheses. I will explain what the regex is when I finish with the actual code, because it's going to tie into what the code is about. So regex is like a JavaScript thing to kind of test for certain parts of strings. Then it's going to a while loop, so it's going to check is part of the string matching the regex. Again, I'll explain what regex is and what matching means when we get to the code. Then replace the part of the string that is matching the regex with the reverse form of the string without the parentheses too. Let's say reverse form of the strings parts. So that means is, let's say for example, let's just take one. So let's say this one. So we're gonna keep checking this entire string against our regex. So our regex is probably gonna have like brackets and then some characters inside. So we check if the string contains closed brackets with letters inside, then it has to replace where you saw the brackets. So let's say it's gonna find this. It has to replace this with the reverse form of this, which means it's gonna be this bracket C, D, and this bracket, and then it's going to take out the parentheses. That's what I put there. So it's going to replace the part of the string that matches the regex with the reverse form of the strings part without the parentheses too. Then it's going to come here. So it says let string now equal to the string, but with those parts replaced. That's going to make more sense when we start the code as well. So we're going to replace. So we're going to assign the string. So the old string going to be inputted here. We're going to reassign it to be equals to the string again, but now with those parts that match the regex replaced. Then we check again. Does it match the regex? If it does, it's going to do the process again. If it doesn't, it's then going to return the string, which is what we want the output to be, and then it's going to end the function. So that's the flowchart. It looks simple, and it is simple. Let's just head straight to the code, and we're going to build this out using JavaScript. So as you can see, this isn't a lot of code, and it's pretty easy, but I'll try to explain it as best as I can. So first of all, what the regex is. So a regex is just a way of testing strings by using certain character classes and values or parameters. So what this regex here tests is, what the hell? What this regex here tests is, it first checks if there's an opening bracket or opening parentheses, because we want to check for these ones. So let's make sure that we can see that we have three parentheses. So we have the outermost one, we have the one that comes after that with a B, and then we have the innermost one. So check the innermost one. You need to make sure that there's no brackets inside, because there's a bracket inside the brackets. That means it's probably not the innermost one. That's why inside the bracket, so I opened it here. You have to use a backslash because a bracket in the regex means something. So you have to use a backslash to negate the brackets, so it doesn't end up as a group. That's why I did that here, to open the brackets and to close the bracket here. Now, inside the brackets, what this means is, it's going to check, is there any character that's between A to Z in lowercase, and is there any character that's between A to Z in uppercase? So that's what this part of it means. It checks for any letters at all that's inside the brackets. Then it checks for question mark. So the reason why I put question mark is because you can see in test 2 there's a question mark here. So we have to make sure that we check for question marks as well, so it doesn't take it out or something. And then this /s means check for space. So you can see again in test 2 we've got some spaces. So we need those spaces back in the final string. So that's why I'm checking for spaces, checking for question mark, checking for lowercase and uppercase letters. I didn't put a number because there are no numbers in our test, but if they put a number in the test, then you could put some numbers there as well. Now, why I put this square bracket is because what it does is it checks if any of these are present. So it checks if a letter is present, it marks it as yes, that is true. If a space is present, it marks it as yes, it's correct, it's true. If question mark is present, it marks it as yes, this should mark as true. Then this plus, what that does is it checks if there are one or more of these characters inside. Meaning that if there is no character, it wouldn't pass as true. And it just checks that we have, so like for example with this, we have DC. So obviously this is 2 characters inside the brackets. So it just checks if we have 1 or more characters inside the parentheses. So that's the regex. And this G is a global modifier. I would advise you to go either watch a tutorial on what regex is and what it does and how it works, or to go on FreeCodeCamp like I'm using now and learn about regex. It really helps when trying to test certain things in strings. So that's regex out of the way. Oh wait, what's crazy? We keep pushing. That's regex out of the way. Then we don't need this. I was using this to check, so we don't really need this. Now, like I said in our flowchart, we're gonna have to use a while loop because we can't use a for loop because we don't know how many times we might need to iterate this. So we're gonna use a while loop. The while loop checks. Now, this is a whole bunch of bogus. Let me just show them step by step. So let's put a console log just to see what they're doing. So string dot match all. So what the match all does is it checks the string if any parts of the string match the regex. If any parts of the string match the regex, it's going to bring out. Let's take away this all first so you can see what I'm talking about. So you can see it brings out the DC bracket because DC bracket is the only one inside here right now that has an open parentheses, close parentheses, and letters or space or question mark in the middle. The rest of these don't, because here you can see you have inside of this parenthesis of B and E, you've got a parenthesis inside, which means that cannot work. To show you better, let me use the second test because that has a lot of innermost parentheses. So you can see that in action. So you can see with this one, it brought out the is question mark, it brought out the TD, and brought out space UO. So these ones have parentheses with letters or space or question mark inside. That's why I brought them out. That's what the match does. It just checks what part of the string contains what the regex should mark as true. Now, the reason why I put match all is because I needed something inside of the match all object. So you can see here, it shows an object. We can't physically check what this object is unless you use inspect, but I don't do that because it's going to be a waste of time. So let me just show you what it does using the .next. So you can see when you press .next or use the method next method, it brings out an object with value. You can see inside of this you have what the value is. Here that is. You've got the index, you've got what its input, you've got the group, and you've got something called done. Now we need this done because what that done does is it tells us that does the actual string, does the input string to this string, it checks if the input string still contains something that matches the regex. If it does, then it's going to leave the done as false. If it doesn't, it's going to then turn it to true. That's why it's false here. So that's why I put the done here. So that's why this is going to return false for the first part. Then I used the exclamation mark symbol, which in JavaScript is used to negate something. So if something is false, it turns it to true. Something is true, it turns to false. So that's why I put this here so that because the done always returns false if you have the match value inside the string, it returns false. That's why I had to negate it to turn true, just so the while loop can run. Then if done becomes true, then this then makes it become false. And when it's false, it means it cannot break out of the while loop. So coming inside here now, we have string.match.regex.forEach. So like we saw before, let me delete this. String.match gives you an array, and that array contains all the parts of the string that matches the regex. So the reason why I use that here is because I need the array, and I use the forEach, which is a higher order function. Again, this is something you need to read on, higher order functions. This forEach just tests for each part of the array. So it tests each one. So it takes the first one is, it works on it, then it takes the next one, TD, it works on it, then it takes the next one, space UO, it works on it. That's what the forEach method does. It just works on each element of the array. Then I called a parameter a match, so that just any, so just, a match just means every element here. So a match, this is a match, this is a match, this is a match. Now, the reason why I put string equals to because in our flowchart you can see here, I said let string now equal to the string but with those parts replaced. If we do not put the string equals to, this replace method doesn't change the original string. So the replace method creates a new string. That's why if you don't make the string equals to what you've now replaced, you're going to have an infinite loop because the string is not changing. So that means this is always going to return false and the negation keeps making it true. That's why I had to put the string equals to there. Then I did string does replace. I use the replace method. The replace method has or takes two parameters. The first one is the thing you want to replace, and the second one is what we want to replace it with. So it's going to take a match. So it's going to take each one. So taking the first one first is question mark. Then this is the long chain method. I'm going to explain each part of it. So what it does here is split turns this a match into an array. So because this is a string here, inside here is a string, it turns this into an array of the equal parts split up. So let's use console log to show that. Console log match dot split. Yeah, so you can see here. So you took the first one, the is question mark, you split it into each part of it. So you need to put this quotation mark inside to show that just split each character that you can find. So that's why you have the open bracket separated, I separated, S separated, question mark separated, and closing parentheses separated. So once you split that, you want to reverse it. So the reverse method then reverses the array. So it just makes the last part the first, the last, and everything in between gets flipped around. So let's console log that as well to show you. Reverse. So you can see it's now flipped it to close parentheses, question mark, S, I, open parentheses. Then we want to use the slice method. The slice method takes a chunk of a string based on what parameters you put inside. So this takes part of the string. So the parameters here is I use 1. So for the slice method, the parameters should be the first one takes what index you want to slice it from. If you don't put any value here, it's going to take from that index to the end of the string. But if you put a value, it stops at whatever index you put as a value. So what I did here was I took the length of the string. No, this is an array now. So I took the length of the array minus 1. The reason why I did that is because, as you can see inside of here, we have our closed brackets here, and we have our open brackets here. So when I want to replace it, I don't want these brackets to come back. That's why I took it that it should slice from index 1. So this is index 1. So this will always be index 1. So the closed bracket is always on index 0. That's what I'm taking from index 1, which here is question mark. Then to a match, so the array, length of the array, which here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 5, so length here is 5 minus 1, which means 4. Again, because array is a 0 index based data, it always starts from 0. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You don't count arrays like that. So this is going to be element 0, element 1, element 2, element 3, and element 4. So that's why I said it should slice from index 1 to index 4. Now, a good thing about slice is that the second index you put in here, it would not add that index as well. So it excludes that index. So that means it's going to take this one, that's index 1. It's going to take this one, index 2, take this one, index 3, and not take this because it excludes index 4. And then finally, we then join the rest of it together. So let's then put that here. So let's take the slice and join from here. Yeah. So you can see now, if you remove the brackets and then it joins the rest of them together back as a string. So you can see it's doing that for all of this. So once it does that, it's now replacing the match. Don't forget, a match before here was open brackets, is, question mark, close brackets. So it replaces this with this inside the string. That's why I put string should equal to this. So it replaces this with this inside the string. So it does it for each one, for this one, for this one, and for this one. It replaces it with this, this, and this. So that's what it does. Now these ones is because the more you do it, these other brackets that are outside need to be worked on as well. That's why they're showing. Let me see, can I even show that? They're showing it here, but let me console log this again. But let me remove the join. Let me see. Let me move it from here. So you can see he's now taking them. No, that's not what I want to show. I want to show this. So let's remove this and replace it with that. Yeah. So you can see. Let's remove this. We don't need that for now. So you can see that's the first one. These are all the innermost parentheses. When it does that, it checks the loop again. Do they still match the rejects? If they do, then it goes to the next one. So this is going to be the next innermost one. Oh, let me actually console log string as well so we can see that clearly. Console log string. So you can see this is the first string that we're checking for. It does this and replaces everything, and now this is the next string. So it's replaced this with this. It's replaced this. What? Oh yeah, it's here. Oh yeah, it's here. So now it's replaced all that, and this is what we have. Now the innermost brackets are this one and this one. So we're gonna take them both, work on them, put them back together, and now the bracket we have left is just this whole one outside here. It takes the whole thing and then it works on it to give us back the actual sentence. That's literally how this works. I know it sounds complicated, but I advise you in your own time, read on regex, study regex. It's gonna be very important when trying to work on strings and trying to test if a string has something, or if you're trying to make an app that checks for buzzwords or filler words, or let's say inappropriate words like swearing. You can use regex to check for all that, and it helps you to find them. If it's there, then it allows you to then maybe report an alert saying, hey, no offensive words, or hey, no hate words, or hey, no racist jokes. So it just checks the strings for you, and then it can help you give out a message if you want to use it to do that. So I advise you to learn regex on your own time. So either watch a YouTube video or again use FreeCodeCamp to learn about regex. On that note, that is reverse parentheses solved. Thanks for sticking around. If you have any questions, drop in the comments. If there's anything you want to discuss on this, drop in the comments. If you have a better way of doing this, drop in the comments. Just let me know what you think, and we keep pushing from there.